Hello and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Eric May, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you have joined us for our next live presentation from Peninsula Energy. Before I introduce our speaker, please note, you can submit your questions for the presenter in the question box to the left of the slides. Additionally, all of today's presentations will be recorded and available for 24/7 replay. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Ralph Knode, CEO of Strata Energy, which in Peninsula Energy trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol PENMF, and on the ASX under the symbol PEN. Welcome, Ralph.
Yes, thank you for the introduction. As you mentioned, I am the CEO of Strata Energy. Strata is a wholly owned subsidiary of Peninsula Energy Ltd. Peninsula is a U.S.-focused uranium operator and developer with the Lance projects in the U.S. state of Wyoming. So we have some standard disclaimers here and some competent person statements, also some cautionary notes and an inferred resource notice. I would like you to either look at the conference webpage or the Peninsula web pages to familiarize yourself with this information. So the Peninsula proposition: very strong balance sheet derived from significant cash flows, long-term contract sales. We have a proven team, highly experienced team in place for efficient project execution. We have an up-to-date definitive feasibility study for Lance. Please note that the numbers and the inputs that went into this are current, and all the capital and operating costs have been updated for things like inflation and that over the last couple of years. There's going to be a final investment decision made by the Peninsula board. We expect that to be made before the end of the year. Peninsula is a long life project. The Lance projects are long life, and Peninsula, we think, is perfectly positioned to play a larger role in the U.S. nuclear fuel market. So just to emphasize, completed DFS in August 22. It shows very low capital intensity. We are a fully permitted operation and significant resource upside potential. So what's the differentiation between us and our peers? We as a junior mining company have a track record of meeting delivery requirements since 2016. We have supply contracts in place for up to 4.6 million pounds at US $58 to $60 per pound. Those contracts extend through 2030. We contract with major utilities both in the US and in Europe. 4 million of those pounds are firmly committed sales. The other 600,000 pounds are optional at the customer's election. We did in 2022 generate over $9 million in net cash margins. We did this by maxing contractual sales with fixed price purchase agreements. We have a significant experienced board of directors and management team. The directors are quite diverse, both geographically and skill set wise. We have directors in London, in Australia, in the US, and in Canada. Skill sets range from finance to technical to uranium market skills to corporate governance. The management team, headed by Mr. Wayne Hiley, is experienced, over 200 years combined experience with this group. Several of us have constructed and operated ISR, uranium ISR facilities, both alkaline and low pH, in the US and in other countries such as Kazakhstan and Australia. So ESG is nothing new to Peninsula. We've been incorporating ESG concepts into everything we do for several years. This is borne out in our business ethics in our community relations, our health and safety, our environmental protections, and also in our corporate governance. For example, one of our European customers for years has requested ESG-like sustainable data. So we routinely collect that data, record it, and share it with our customers as requested. I might just take a second to talk to the picture on the screen here as examples of some of the things we've done in the ESG arena over the last several years. There's a project called the Little Missouri Headwaters Cultural Heritage Project. Early on in the permitting of the lands projects, there was an ethnographic study compiled, and it was just sitting on the shelf basically. We decided to turn that into a web page. It really is quite an interesting web page. It tracks the traveling of the various indigenous tribes through the Little Missouri Headwaters area, in and out of the plains, into the Powder River Basin, into hunting areas in Wyoming and Bighorn Mountains and other places. It's a fun web page. It's entertaining. It's got a lot of good information in there about what happened in this part of the world for literally the last 10,000 years. So I would encourage you to take a look at it. If you're interested in that, you can find a link to it on Peninsula or Strata web pages. So kind of hand in hand with ESG is ISO. Back in 2021, we put a program together. We began implementing that program, or actually programs, the first quarter of this year. It's both the 9001 Quality Management System and the 14001 Environmental Management Systems. We completed a gap analysis audit in July of this year, made a few tweaks to the system, and we have scheduled a full certification audit for first quarter of 2023. So that was a little bit on the company. Let's talk a little bit about the Lance projects. So we have our project located in the state of Wyoming. It's a leading U.S. uranium extraction jurisdiction, over 14 licensed projects in various states of development throughout the state of Wyoming, owned by some very notable North American mining companies. In the 11 of those 14 projects are in the Powder River Basin. They're shown here, kind of that colored area. The Lance project's in the northeast corner of the Powder River Basin. And something to note, Wyoming became an agreement state in the third quarter of 2018, which means that all decisions regarding the issuance and the oversight of mining permits and mining licenses is handled at the state level. So that really, Wyoming clearly is a Tier 1 jurisdiction, and we're happy to be here. The district scale Lance projects are shown here on the right side of the screen. You can see we control about 37 kilometers of mineralized trends, and it's about 8 kilometers in width. Excuse me. The mineralized trends are open both to the north and to the west as we dip out into the basin. What I'd like to focus on is the three project areas that we have. Red area is the Ross production facility, fully licensed, constructed, has 2 developed mine units which were operated from 2016 through 2018, mined about 400,000 pounds. Those 2 developed mine units still have approximately 800,000 pounds under them and are ready for a quick restart. There's additional 2 to 3 mine units planned in the Ross area before it's mined out. The blue area is the next is what we call Kendrick, the next sequential production area. There's amendments are currently being prepared to add Kendrick to the Ross project licenses, and we expect those amendments to be lodged with the state of Wyoming before the end of this year. And then the rest is green, is Barber, what we call Barber. highly undelineated resource area, significant inferred resources, and significant potential for resource growth and enhancement. Just to give you a little bit of context, the Ross project, there's about 5 million pounds left in that area. The Kendrick, there's about 16 million pounds there, mostly about half inferred and half indicated. And then there's 37 million pounds of inferred resource throughout the Barber area. So again, significant upside for growth and enhancement of the resources in Barber. One thing I want to point out, we're going to talk a few times in this presentation about the final investment decision. When we talk about that is a decision to restart operations in Ross and in Kendrick, which will become an amendment to Ross. So that new feasibility study that we did looks only at Ross and Kendrick and those resources and that production scenario. It did not take into account any of the large inferred resource base in the Barber resource area. Just an overview again of the resource. One of the largest U.S. uranium projects out there. You can see measured pounds of about 3.7 million, indicated pounds of a little over 12 million, and inferred pounds of 37, almost 38 million. Total of 53.7 JORC compliant resources with an estimated exploration target beyond that of 100 to about 163 million pounds. I heard in one of the earlier presentations this morning, or I saw on a slide that Peninsula did not have production facilities. I beg to differ. Here's a picture of our project area. The large building on the left is the central processing plant. Currently, as situated, it has a capacity of a little over 800,000 pounds per year, but it's fully licensed to produce up to 3 million pounds per year. At this time, that building houses an ion exchange system, resin transfer systems, reverse osmosis units, deep well injection unit for wastewater, and also an area that we can load and unload resin from a trailer. We do take our loaded resin to a third party in the Powder River Basin, where we have a contract for them to toll mill our resin. The building on the right with the two open doors, it's the administration building. I'm actually sitting in the conference room of that building at the moment. Obviously offices, maintenance bays, construction bays. So we're fully functional. I'd point to the background of the slide. The far part of the slide is the western flank of the Black Hills of Wyoming, South Dakota. The middle ground there shows what's very typical in terms of topography throughout that 37 kilometer strike. Very gently rolling grasslands, very conducive to development of ISR operations, well-filled roads, etc. So what differentiates us here is that we use the what we'd call industry-leading low pH ISR process. Over 50% of the global uranium produced in 2020 was via low pH ISR. All of those companies are in the lowest quartile cash cost of uranium mines. So we are here at Peninsula and Lance Projects, the only U.S.-based uranium project authorized to use the industry-leading low pH ISR method. So that's a big regulatory de-risking right there. We have done a significant amount of field testing. We've had field leach trials. We've had what we call here the Mine Unit 1A field demonstrations. That, along with the publishing recently of the DFS, really de-risked this transition into low pH at Lance. And again, the DFS produced excellent results. So we've looked at the company and the project. Let's take a second to look at the DFS in a little more detail. It highlights Lance as a globally competitive uranium production center. Focused on the low risks and well-defined Ross and Kendrick resource areas. As I said, none of the Barber resources nor any production for Barber were considered in the DFS. Only Ross and Kendrick. Very low capital intensity, low operating costs, competitive all-in sustaining cost, and a very short timeline to production. These are the conclusions of the DFS. Some of the details, key results. 14-year life of mine, generating a little over 14 million pounds of U3O8. Pre-tax NPV, 8% discount of 125 million US dollars. IRR of 43%, and achieve a positive cash flow at the end of year 2. It projects that it would require about 60 million invested to reach this positive cash flow after 2 years. We have a current corporate treasury that might be used to fund a portion of that, and we have some other options that I'll talk about in a second. Some of the key results, average sales price used in this was $62.38. That included contracted and uncontracted pounds. When you look just at the uncontracted pounds, we had Trade Tech do a study for us, and unaltered, we use their numbers of 65.49 for all the uncontracted pounds sold in this under this DFS. And a pretty good all-in sustaining cost of US $39.08 a pound. Peninsula also holds a physical uranium inventory, completely uncommitted inventory of 310,000 pounds. What this does, this enhances flexibility in meeting customer requirements. It also opens a door for on-market transactions like sales to U.S. government in the Strategic Uranium Reserve, if we were to be chosen. 300,000 pounds of that was acquired in mid-2021 at a purchase price of $31.35 US dollars. So considerable appreciation for the shareholders at this point in time. And we think holding physical uranium is a low-risk strategy with key benefits. It gives us a lot of flexibility is what it does. We strategically aligned with funding requirements to restart this, gives us working capital options. So, we like where we sit with this uranium. So what's next at Lance? Obviously, you've seen we've been systematically progressing towards a restart, final investment decision. We talked a little bit about technical optimization activities. Those have been completed over the last couple of years. The economics and the DFS completed as of this fall. We are anticipating, while we evaluate funding options, we are anticipating a final investment decision before the end of this year. Assuming that we move forward with that, in 6 months or less, we will be producing. As I mentioned, we have not only do we have a fully licensed and operational recovery facility, we have 2 mine units that are, we've been working to get them in position to turn back on. We had to do a little bit of work in terms of transitioning some of the materials from alkaline compatibility, low pH compatibility, pretty much finished with that. And the two production areas that I mentioned are ready to be turned on. Over the longer haul, over the next year and beyond, we'll be developing new areas for production. So I think you can see we've been aggressively advancing Lance over the last 1.5 to 2 years. 2022 was really a pivotal year for Peninsula. Key activities were completed. We advanced ahead of the final investment decision. As I've said many times, the DFS was completed, and we liked the results. The different ongoing preparatory works that allow for an accelerated production ramp up. We funded all that work from cash reserves. The preparation operational activities, mine unit 1 and 2 are nearly complete. Mine unit 3, we've actually had 3 drill rigs working for most of the last year in what our future mine unit 3, our next development area. Initially, they're finding and plugging historic drill holes. Been a small amount of final delineation drilling and completing the wellfield design. And they actually just in the last week or so started installing monitor wells for the groundwater monitoring network required for that mine unit. So most of the final engineering design for the plant has been done. We've been in the process of identifying and ordering long lead time materials and supplies. That's been going on for several months. And the Peninsula board is now focused on completing the final investment decision before the end of the year. So we think there's a compelling proposition here. We think that idled U.S. projects like ours that are sufficiently advanced may have a unique opportunity to capture what we see as a emerging U.S. demand in a Western-focused nuclear fuel market. Many, if not most, uranium developers are facing significant issues: staffing, technical, regulatory, operational, and could likely be years away from actual production readiness. What I want to stress here is Peninsula has completed the staffing. We never actually let any staff go, and we're staffing beyond that. The technical and the regulatory and the operational de-risking activities have all been taking place, and we have a real substantial sales contract book in place. So 2022 is a pivotal year. We're ready to go. We're positioned to rapidly move back into production and leverage the current market opportunities. So that is the end of my presentation. Thank you for your time today, and I would be happy to take any questions if there are any. Okay. Well, for some reason, I am not seeing the questions come up. There we go. What time frame of uncovered demand is Peninsula working to produce into? We've been talking with utilities for the last year about potentially new contracts. I don't know that we've really looked at a specific time frame. I think it's got to be more, make sense to us in a financial way. But if we could find the right contracts today, I'm sure we'd be signing them. Another question. Why is Peninsula Energy considered a junior developer if you have production facilities at Lance and is a producing asset? Well, I guess I don't know what the absolute definition of a junior developer is, but compared to somebody like a Cameco or Orano, we're certainly junior in size. But I do like to emphasize the fact that we are operationally ready. We are fully permitted to engage in low pH ISR activities, and you can call us a junior, you can call us whatever you want. We're ready to go. Yes, I think this question has been asked earlier today a few times. Are there U.S. government programs in support of the uranium industry that we can participate in? Yes, there are. The Department of Energy requested bids a couple of months back for supply into the Strategic Uranium Reserve. We did bid into that process, but those awards have not been let yet, so we don't know what the situation is there. As I think was mentioned earlier, there's a couple other programs. There's a lot of money in the Inflation Reduction Program. I think that's not the bill. A lot of money for advanced nuclear in there, and it's set up such that companies buying U.S. production would benefit. There's been supplementary budget request by the DOE, and there would be a lot of legislation coming out in the near future looking at how to allow new U.S. production to benefit. Are you providing any guidance for 2023? And I can speak to the capital needs. The guidance would come from the Peninsula board. It wouldn't come from me. Capital needs for 2023. You'll note in that one slide, we talked about needing approximately $60 million to get to free cash flow. That's a decision that'll be made later this year. What magnitude and what speed we try and reach that restart. And then there's another final question on how is ISR production converted to U3O8? Well, there's uranium in the ground. We cause that uranium to go into solution by oxidizing it. We capture that uranium at the surface in a conventional ion exchange system, and we would then strip the uranium off the ion exchange resin. That would concentrate the uranium in a liquid form. Then we'd precipitate it and dry it and package it as you would in any other conventional operation. That is the end of my questions as I see them. Thank you very much for your time today, and